Thinking about Jiu Jitsu through the lens of destabilization has changed everything for me. Destabilization is the key to our attacks, whether we're on top or bottom. For the longest time, what destabilization meant to me was to off-balance my opponent. So if I could take a standing opponent and put them down on their hip, my attacks are going to be much more effective. But there's a second way to destabilize our opponent that I'm trying to incorporate more into my game.
Now, destabilization, I've said this before, refers to two things. It refers to falling, like ruining the structure so that the structure falls down in a specific direction, or we talk about it as the denaturing of the structure of a limb, so it can no longer apply and receive force.
A table with 4 legs is very structured and can bear a lot of weight. But if we took away a couple of those legs and turned that table on its side, that's not the way a table was designed to be used, and therefore it's going to be much easier to break. The idea of destabilizing the structure of a limb really hit home for me when talking about grip fighting from the back. We can weaken our opponent's grip by breaking down the structure of their wrist. But we can also weaken the structure of the grip by compromising their elbow position. As we threaten a rear naked choke, they're going to be fighting to grab our strangle arm. And this grip is going to be strongest if their elbow is below their wrist. So if we can pull their elbow up, we can compromise their elbow position, putting their arm in a structurally weak or even useless position that we can ultimately capitalize on for the finish. Our arms are strongest when our elbows are close to our hips. Our legs are strongest when our hip, knees, and feet are relatively aligned. And from positions like this, the human body is very structured, meaning it can apply and receive force. So as the attacker, if we can figure out ways to break this structured alignment, we can start to destabilize our opponent. Now, from a position like turtle, the defender's primary escape is going to be to stand and shake us off. As the attacker, our goal is to destabilize them, and we can do that by compromising their balance, such as sweeping their feet to prevent them from standing up. And after we destabilize them, we're looking to upgrade our total body control by doing things like inserting hooks. The other way to achieve this would be manipulating the structure of their limbs, using things like Turks, making it hard for our opponent to build height from turtle, as we work to capitalize on this destabilization to gain more total body control by breaking them down closer to the mat. Probably my favorite way to do this these days is by using a crab hook, which compromises the structure of this leg and allows us to upgrade our total body control by throwing in a second hook. Or even better, we can use the crab hook to destabilize our opponent. And instead of throwing in a second hook, we throw our primary hook across to the far hip so we can lock a body triangle and upgrade our total body control. To summarize the theme here, we destabilize our opponent, making it difficult for them to apply or receive force. And we take advantage of that destabilization to upgrade our total body control. But ultimately, we're going to sacrifice some of that whole body control to impose threat on a specific area of our opponent's body. But more on that submission stuff later. Because before we get there, we just play this game of destabilization to upgrade total body control over and over again. We start the match standing and we're looking to create some initial destabilization in our opponent. They may elect to extend their arm to make connection by grabbing our wrist. But if we compare elbow position, ours is much closer to our hip, which means we're the ones who are in a more structured position and thus have the ability to generate a lot of force. This would be an example of forcing extension through indirect means. And one way this comes about is our opponent extending themselves to go into offense. If our opponent takes a grip on us, it can set up takedown opportunities. But if they're not disciplined with their elbow position, it can put their arm in a state of extension. And we can look to take advantage of their unstable structure to upgrade our total body control. We can also indirectly put our opponent in a state of extension in a more defensive manner. And usually this happens by threatening positional advancement. If we're threatening to pass the guard to mount, our opponent may elect to extend their arm to prevent our positional advancement. And we can capitalize on this extension by taking an underhook and increasing our total body control. So the idea behind this approach is our opponent decides to put their own arm into an initial state of extension. And it's our job to figure out ways to keep it there and force their arm into a more permanent state of extension against their will. What this might look like from bottom position is we first start with destabilizing our opponent through balance. And if they don't do anything, we'll sweep them. So to prevent us from advancing our position, they can extend their arm. And now it's our job to keep that arm in a state of extension. So our opponent may elect to extend their arms to go into offense, or they can look to extend their arms defensively to prevent our positional advancement. In either case, our opponent has indirectly gone into a state of extension. allowing us to upgrade our total body control. Now we can also create extension directly. And an example of this would be from mount, I pin your wrist before taking an underhook and ratcheting it up above your head to force you into a state of extension. And ultimately what this means is we're putting the arm in an unstable position where it's no longer able to effectively apply or receive force. Now arms are going to be unstable if we can force elbows out and away from the body, but we can also do this by bringing elbows across the center line. And again, we can do this indirectly or directly. We can directly grab our opponent's elbow and pass it across the center line. Then we can transition into an arm drag to keep it there. And with their arm across the center, we can look to capitalize on our opponent's unstable position. If our opponent takes an offensive grip on our wrist, we can guide it across their center line to put our opponent in an unstable position. And then we look to capitalize on that destabilization by upgrading our total body control and forcing the seated player down to their back. Another example of bringing the arm across the center would be we have a straight grip on their wrist, but they're extending their arm with an inside bicep tie on the other side, which can be great for their offense, but we can also capitalize by going into an arm drag, pulling the arm across the center and making their structure unstable, which means they're not able to receive force all that well, which means our snap down should be pretty strong. And just like that, we're able to capitalize on that initial destabilization to win the match. Now at this point, if you've taken a shot for every time I've said destabilization, you might as well just take the whole bottle. But this is the way I've been thinking about jiu-jitsu recently, and I'm starting to see it in all things.
That's Miyamoto Musashi on my right arm.
For example, if I'm trying to pass a knee shield, I have a stable structure in front of me. And if their legs are stable, it's going to be very hard for me to plow through this knee shield. But if I can manipulate their knee position or their foot position, the structure of the knee shield starts to weaken. Now their leg can no longer apply or receive force all that well. The same way we weaken the structure of the grip either at the wrist or the elbow. And then we can look to capitalize on our opponent's unstable state. Probably the best example of this is Craig's power ride philosophy. He does a great job of keeping his opponent's feet off the mat or doing things like turking the leg, making it difficult for his opponent to apply or receive force. And then he looks for ways to capitalize on that unstable structure by finding ways to increase the control he has over the system as a whole. Now, after continuously upgrading the control we have over our opponent, we can find ourselves in positions like double trouble from cross-ashi or a double chest wrap from mount. From positions like this, we can control our opponent for extended periods of time. And it would be nice if we're able to apply a submission directly from these very controlling positions. But more often than not, this can prove to be very difficult against game opponents. So from a double chest wrap, we've created an initial extension in both of our opponent's arms. And we have very good control over our opponent's whole body. But in order to finish an armbar submission, we need to force our opponent's arm into an extreme state of extension, which is difficult to do from this position. So we give up some full body control so we can recruit more of our own body to the task of extending our opponent's arm enough to get the submission.
I'm going to have to give up some of that whole body direct control, and I'm going to have to pull more of myself to a smaller portion of you so I can enhance breakability and strangleability.
What makes jiu-jitsu so effective is it teaches us how to attack a small portion of our opponent's body with a large percentage of our own. We can concentrate our strength on a vulnerable area of our opponent's body to force them to submit. While there are more flashy ways to achieve this end result of submission, the more reliable strategy tends to be putting your opponent in an initial state of destabilization, either by threatening their balance or the structure of their limbs, making it so they can no longer apply or receive force. And then we use this destabilization to upgrade the control we have over their body, which is what we talked about in this video here. But in order to unlock the superpower of jiu-jitsu, we generally have to go from a position where we control our opponent's whole body very well, to a different position which will allow us to concentrate our efforts around one aspect of our opponent's body. So we're reducing the control we have over our opponent's whole body. But by doing so, we can impose a serious threat on our opponent. And when this is done well, it is the superpower of jiu-jitsu. But this is a calculated risk on our part, and giving up full body control can lead to our opponent escaping. So it's important that we understand and manage this transition well, but that will be a topic for another video. And if I've made it, I'll link it right here. But if not, I recommend you check out this video here to improve your rear naked choke and up your submission game. And if you're interested in the website I created to help jiu-jitsu nerds like you and I study jiu-jitsu more effectively, the link is right here.